This is Inspired Wellness with Jessica, your new go-to podcast for mind, body, and emotional wellness. Tune in to hear real, raw conversations about stress, anxiety, and holistic self-care. I am your podcast host. My name is Jessica. I am from Inspired Life Collective. I'm an Advanced EFT Practitioner, meditation therapist, and holistic life coach. And I am on a mission to educate you on how to release stress from your body and, dare I say, even prevent it, and inspire you to live life with a calm body, a clear mind, and thriving emotionally. If you are ready to support your long-term health and wellness, then let's jump straight into the episode. Today on Inspired Wellness with Jessica, I want to talk to you guys about a few of the most frequently asked questions that I get and also that I hear as well around EFT tapping. Now, as you may be aware, I am an advanced EFT practitioner. This means I have gone through extensive training to learn the technique, to learn how to apply it to many different situations, emotional situations, stress release, trauma release, as well as understanding, how it works and what it's all about. And as an advanced EFT practitioner and somebody who, used EFT to, bring myself out of a state of panic and anxiety that was completely controlling my life, I absolutely love talking about the benefits of tapping, and I love bringing awareness to this technique. I am seeing more and more that people are talking about tapping, and I'm seeing more and more that people are curious, about what it is and how it might be able to help them. And so I'm hoping that by answering, a couple of these questions today, that I might be able to help you sort of put to bed any hesitations or concerns that you might have about EFT tapping. So the first question that I want to address is, why do we focus on the negative? And this is something that I get, quite frequently. And I can understand that, particularly for somebody who is very much, what you think about, you bring about sort of attitude, that sounds quite counterintuitive to say the negative things that are happening. I know also too, for some people who are frightened to revisit the things that they are thinking about. They believe that if they bring their negative thoughts or their negative emotions or negative situation to their attention, that they're just asking for more of it. And to be honest, I think that, there is a lot to answer for in the way that people promote positive thinking. And I know I've done a blog post on this, and I'm really quite passionate about it, the difference between positive thinking and positive thinking skills. And if you are only thinking positively, you are not allowing yourself to actually deal with emotions. You're not allowing yourself to process emotions. And we are human. We all have emotions. We all have situations that need to be dealt with. And when these are simply repressed and only the positive is focused on, then there's no actual healing that will take place. So in answer to the question, why do we only focus on the negative when we are beginning our EFT statements, or when we are moving around and we're focusing on our negative emotion or our negative situation? First of all, it's about acceptance. So if you are unable to accept that something has happened to you, if you are unable to accept that you have experienced something or you feel a certain way, then you are not going to be able to let it go. Now, I've said this before and I will say it again. Acceptance does not mean that you are validating what happened. It does not have to even mean forgiveness to another party. What it is saying, though, is that I accept that this has happened in my life, and now I no longer allow it the power over me, emotionally, mentally, whatever it is. So when we are saying our setup statement in EFT, we are saying, even though I have this problem, I accept how I feel. And we're bringing our awareness to that problem with the statement of self-acceptance. Then what we do from there, as we move around our body on the clinical EFT points, that we are saying a reminder phrase. And this reminder phrase might be something like, I feel anxious, or I am stressed, or this thing this person said to me. So by giving a voice to what is going on and combining that exposure therapy, okay, so the exposure of what has happened in a safe and controlled manner, and combining that with tapping on the acupressure meridians that are sending a calming signal to your amygdala, telling your brain that your fight or flight response can switch off, that you are safe in this moment. You are actually desensitizing the emotion that you are feeling to the thought that you are having. So if you are not able to say the negative thing that you are thinking or feeling, then you're not going to be able to cut that connection between the thought and the emotion. And again, it's like repressing it. It's like pushing it away and dealing with it later. It's just going to come back. So focusing on the negative in EFT does not make you a negative Nancy, does not mean that you're going to be focused on and sending out the energetical signals to attract more of what you are focusing on and what you are feeling in that moment. It means that you are allowing EFT to do its job, and you are actually going to be emotionally free from it. And imagine the energetic signals, imagine the level of energy that you are going to send out to the universe when you are actually free from these weighted emotions and from these negative experiences. The next question I want to address is it safe? And the answer is yes, absolutely. So EFT is a self-applied technique. You are always in control. If you are dealing with trauma, and actually this might even move into another question, that is why tap with a practitioner. If you are moving into, say, a trauma, if you are trying to release something that is quite traumatizing for you, EFT is a very safe and effective way to do that. However, I do recommend dealing with trauma with a practitioner. And I'm not saying that because I'm a practitioner. I don't mind if you go and work with someone else, but do it with a practitioner, because we are trained to keep you out and above the situation. We are trained to keep you as an observer, to keep you safe, and to keep you on track. Because what often happens when we are trying to deal with deeper emotions or deeper belief systems or things that our body or our brain does not deem as safe, when we are dealing with that, distraction comes up, and it is a form of protection. So your mind might say, oh, she's starting to get into this deep work here. No, don't want to visit that today. So how about we go and hang out the washing instead? And all of a sudden that becomes a really pressing issue for you. You have to go and hang out that washing. Okay, so it's protection. So a role of an EFT practitioner is to keep you safe. Now, when you are tapping at home, you can't hurt yourself. It is a safe and effective technique to lower stress levels, to deal with anxiety, to release emotional intensity from a situation, and to also use as a personal transformation tool. So I'm not going to go into today, the different ways that we can use EFT. That'll be a whole nother episode. But, if you're identifying belief systems and things at home and you're able to tap on the emotion, then you're going to have success. If you have pain and you are able to use EFT tapping, then you are going to have success. If you do feel for some reason unsafe tapping, then please just reach out to a practitioner, because that is your brain saying that you are dealing with something big. And we do have techniques where you don't need to even speak about it. We have techniques, as I said, that keep you as an observer, that keep you safe while still releasing your trauma effectively. And in the words of Dr. Peter Stapleton from her brilliant book, The Science Behind Tapping, once you have dealt with a issue effectively with EFT, it is unlikely that you are going to have to ever deal with that issue again. Now, that's a pretty big statement. Now, how do I know that it's working? What a fantastic question. There's a few different ways that you'll know that your tapping is working. The first is you might just feel completely calm. So if you're tapping because you're really stressed in a moment or you're really highly anxious, you might just feel calm and your body is ready to move on. You might begin to be bored with the subject. So if you are doing your rounds of reminder phrase and you're saying, I'm so stressed, or this thing he said, this thing she said, this thing that happened to me, and you're saying that over and over again, and suddenly you're bored with it. Suddenly you don't even know why that was important to you to begin with. That means it's working. If you are yawning, so yawning is a form of energy movement. And of course, when we're tapping on energy meridians that help the energy to flow through our body, to move through our chakras. We are unblocking energy meridians that are connected to organs throughout our body. So yawning also because you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So yawning is a really common sign that you have had an emotional shift. Okay, there's been a big shift in energy. You might feel the emotional release. Okay, so you might be tapping about something and you have a memory come up and you think, yep, I'll go with it. I'll follow this memory, but I know I've dealt with this before. And then suddenly you have this urge to cry. That's an emotional release. We don't push it down, we let it come up. You might also find too, just by the way, if you experience migraines, that an emotional release will actually really help you. If you can do some tapping, see if you can identify the emotion that's triggering this migraine or the emotion that might be keeping it there, and allow the emotion to release. And I pretty much guarantee you're going to have relief. That's coming from somebody who has had a lot of migraines. Emotional release is one way that you will know that your EFT is working. Now, I have had clients experience some amazing shifts. So one in particular, I can tell you, she had a big shift. She let go of something huge that she had been holding on to for 30 years. Something that had stayed with her, something that had traumatized her, something that had formed belief systems for her. And as she released, after we had the emotional release, as she let this go, apologies, you can hear my little dog barking there in the background. This is the joys of working from home when everybody is COVID isolating at the moment. We are all here. So as my client let these emotions go, she had this energy rush move through her. And she said to me, my legs are tingling. Is that normal? And I said, absolutely, that can happen. And she just had this rush move through her body. And she said that she just felt it as it moved up and released. And then she had this lightness about her. She stood up and she was like, can I hug you? I just want to hug you. Oh my goodness, my legs. I want to run home. She just had this amazing energy shift. And it was one of the most beautiful things that I've witnessed. I watch clients have an emotional release as they are talking about something that they believe they had truly dealt with. Something that as we touch on it, they say, oh yeah, but I did do this work on this, but I'll tell you anyway. And they begin to tell me, and then the emotions flow. And as we move through the emotions and we allow them to release, the peace on their face, the calm in their body is phenomenal. And I can tell you another story around release. How do I know if EFT is working? I personally was moving through something really big, something that had it was basically my brain versus my gut instinct. And I did not feel good about what I had to deal with. And I was really, really struggling with coming up with my solution. And as I was tapping about it, I got to my collarbone and I started to feel nauseous. And I thought, that's weird. And I kept moving around my body. As I got back to my collarbone, I started to feel nauseous again. So I went with it. I sat there and I just repeated what I was saying at that time. And I just allowed that nausea, and I felt it move from my stomach up to my chest, up to my throat. And I went and threw up 5 times. I felt amazing after that. I was clear, I knew what I had to do, and I had also released the emotional intensity that I had about this particular situation that had also been causing me panic attacks. So release can happen in many different ways. I've heard some people get gassy. Now, no client has admitted that to me. Practitioners have said that they sometimes feel gassy. So for everybody, it's going to work in different ways. But the most common is feeling bored with your subject and yawning and an emotional release such as a cry. Now, another question that I get about tapping is, how does tapping on my face, or how is tapping with my fingers somewhere on my face or my head actually supposed to calm me down? So when we are tapping on this particular sequence of energy meridians, acupressure meridians that we tap on, this sequence has been studied in over 17 years of clinical trials. And these clinical studies, these clinical trials have been based on things like PTSD, stress release, anxiety, depression, panic, academic performance, burnout assistance. So many pain management, so many different trials on the effectiveness of EFT. Now, when we are tapping on these energy meridians, we are sending a signal to our brain that releases the chemicals that tells our amygdala, which is our brain's fight or flight response center, okay, the body's smoke alarm, it tells it that we are safe. And as it sends these chemical messages to your amygdala will then activate what we call your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your relaxation response. And that is the opposite to your fight or flight response. So when we are tapping, we are actually physically calming the body. And I know for some people, particularly in times of panic, sometimes breathing is hard. For adults or children, for example, with ADHD, and, the movement of the tapping and the fidgeting of the tapping is actually really, really beneficial because you're able to activate that relaxation response without having to, sit still and meditate, or without having to, really get that deep breathing happening if you are struggling at first. You are trying to calm down. So EFT tapping is so effective for calming your nervous system and for helping it to regulate. And because you are also using a mind-body connection and you are grounding yourself with the sensation of tapping on the different acupressure points, you are again sending those calming signals to your amygdala. And the last question that I'm going to address today is, what if I don't do it properly? Now, if you are in a state of panic, or you are anxious, or you are highly stressed, any tapping is going to be better than no tapping. It doesn't matter if at the time you cannot remember the right words, if you cannot remember the sequence, even if you are only activating some of the energy meridians, you are still going to get some benefit. In fact, sometimes I even recommend to people, depending on what specific emotion you are experiencing, you can actually lean on certain points to support you for specific emotions, because every point is connected to an organ in your body and every point is connected to an emotion as well. So if you don't really know what you're doing, I do highly recommend that in your times of calm, you practice tapping. I recommend in your times of calm that is when you most need to practice your tapping, your meditation, because this is when your parasympathetic nervous system is actually going to begin to become your more dominant one. And your sympathetic nervous system will become less sensitive. But if you are able to practice, you are able to learn a basic sequence. You are able to learn where the points are. Okay, so hitting the right points is pretty important. But again, in the times of stress and anxiety, a little bit of tapping is better than no tapping. Not getting the sequence right is better than not doing it at all. Not saying, a correct formatted setup statement is way better than not doing it at all. You can also tap with no words if you need to. If you are just feeling what you are feeling and it is intense, you can just tap and breathe. You can pick one point if you need to, if that's all you remember, and tap and breathe. And then, in your moments of calm, go and just practice. Listen to a sequence. If you are a Thrive member, then download, multiple Thrive emotional support EFT sessions and have them ready to go. If not, go and download. I've got a free introduction. It's a basic introduction to EFT, basic ways that you can start to implement EFT at home. I'll put the link to that in the show notes. Go and download that and you can practice how to do it properly. How to use tapping in your own life with your own words. But if you can't remember and it's a case of you don't feel good and you just need to calm down, then tap where you remember. Tap however you remember, because you're going to get some benefit, and that's better than no benefit. I hope these questions have been really, really helpful for you. If you have more, please pop them in the comments and I'm more than happy to address any other frequently asked questions about EFT tapping. Even if you think it's a silly question or even if you think it's a bit out there, please hit me with it. I would love to answer them. And I really hope too that this has sort of helped if you are thinking, oh, maybe I might try tapping for my trauma, or maybe I might try tapping for my anxiety or my stress, but, I don't want to focus on the negative, or, what if it's just woo-woo or whatever your hesitation may be. And just quickly on the woo-woo, I guess, a frequently asked question that I do hear that I did not address is, is there science behind it? And the answer to that is yes. As I mentioned before, there's over 17 years of clinical studies that have been conducted on EFT and its effectiveness, and in comparison with gold standard treatments such as CBT or acceptance and commitment therapy. It is an approved treatment for war veterans in the USA. So EFT has tons of scientific research behind it, which I'm also more than happy to send to you or even link in the notes if you want to have a look. You can have a look at Dr. Peter Stapleton. She's the lead researcher in Australia for EFT and really lead researcher around the world. You can look at EFT Universe that houses thousands of studies on different issues, from pain to emotions to different, life circumstances. So absolutely, it is science-backed. It is a proven and effective technique. It is not just woo-woo. But, if you like woo-woo, then you can think of it as woo-woo. So I really do hope, though, that these questions have been able to, put your mind at ease a little bit about how tapping might be able to work for you. And if you would like to chat with me about this further, as I am an advanced EFT practitioner and I do combine my EFT tapping with holistic counselling and meditation therapy when required. So if you'd like to chat further with me about what is going on for you, then you are welcome to book a free Getting to Know You chat, which I will link in the show notes as well. So go and download the basic introduction to EFT if you've never tapped before. Send me through any other questions you have and go and get tapping. Go and lower your stress levels straight away. Go and calm your anxiety straight away. And go and experience the way that life feels when you are really, truly releasing your emotions, okay? Accepting, processing, and releasing your emotions rather than suppressing them and paying for it later. You've been listening to Inspired Wellness with Jessica. If you loved what you heard today, make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. If you know someone who would love to hear all about this topic, make sure you share this episode on your socials and tag me at inspiredlife.byjessicaann. You can get in touch with me through my website www.inspiredlifecollective.com.au. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.